Every now and then, we hit the nail on the freaking head. Cowboys took a bad loss to a 5-win Jags team, but we called this. Last week against the Houston Texans, Dak Prescott throws an interception with 5 minutes left. The Cowboys were trailing 23-20. But fear not, Dak Prescott, 11 play, 98 yards later, he marches down the field, touchdown. Cowboys take the lead, 27-23. Davis Mills has the ball for the Texans, interception, game over. Cowboys win. He tried it again. Yesterday, Dak Prescott throws an interception. It's 27-17. Jags score. It's now 27-23. Jags take the lead. It is 34-31. Dak Prescott marches down the field. 13 plays, 75 yards. He takes the lead. But there's no Davis Mills. There's Trevor Lawrence. So with a minute and 1 second left, Trevor Lawrence goes down the field, ties it up. Cowboys lose in overtime. I had been wary of Dak Prescott, Dave Helman. I had been wary that those interceptions would eventually cost him. I do believe that though there's a lot of blame to go around, Dak is the primary perpetrator. He is the one who deserves the blame. Where do you stand?
I mean, he is the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. That's what happens. Shockingly, I don't put it all on Dak. It's the same thing I keep saying. Yes, Dak has a hand in this. There's culpability. Again, I said it in that clip. We did a good job with that, by the way. That was prophetic. It was this very similar situation. He throws two. One is very much his fault, and the other is not. Early in the game, you mentioned it. You can't press and throw picks like that in the shadow of your own goalpost. It set the stage for the Jags to begin their comeback. The one that everybody's talking about and dissecting and dunking on that happened in overtime is a perfectly placed ball on a crossing route that hits Noah Brown right on his shoulder pads that would have picked up a third down and given the Cowboys a chance to keep marching and win the game. And it bounces right into Buddy's hand. It's absolutely mind-numbing. No, I don't put this all on Dak Prescott. How about 500 yards of offense allowed by the Dallas defense? About 192 rushing yards. They lose Leighton Vander Esch early in this game. Never looked good against the run after that. Remember, as long as I'm being prophetic, remember when I mentioned what really scared me about the Cowboys, their cornerback situation? Kelvin Joseph got picked on in this game. Zay Jones, you see that double move? Put him in a spin cycle. That there's so many things you can get into. I don't want to talk for this entire segment, so I won't do it. The Cowboys, from the top down, melted down. And yes, Dak Prescott was a part of that, but I think it's a little disingenuous to say it's all his fault.
Joy, where you at?
It's not all his fault. But if we're going to talk about the interceptions, let's talk about him. Are they in overtime if he doesn't throw that interception?
Maybe not. Yeah. Are they in overtime if their defense can get a stop? I mean, they're giving up 75-yard possessions.
What I do know is that was a bad interception.
It was.
Which we were afraid of. He has to take better care of the ball. They're not in that game to potentially go to overtime if he doesn't do that. So let's not talk about the tipped one, which is, of course, also his fault because he throws the ball and the interceptions don't have a little asterisk that said,
maybe they should, though. Maybe they should. I can't put that one
all
on
turnover.
Dak.
Okay, don't. Put the earlier one.
All right, okay.
This is a problem.
Yeah.
The reason we played that clip is this is a problem. What did we say? You're not going to do that against the better team and come up with those results. And they didn't. It's not all Dak's fault, of course. There's plenty of blame to go around. But when you're the most important guy on the field, when you play the most important position, you have to be the one. You can't be the reason why. You can't play a role in that. You just can't. This is too far into the season. They're supposed to be a Super Bowl winning team. They're supposed to be a contending team. This is how it goes. I say every single week, how did the Texans look last week? How did they look this week? There's not that big of a margin of difference between bad teams and good teams in this league. If you want to subscribe to that, have at it. But this is not college.
You're right.
These are professional players. They're coached by a Super Bowl winning coach, a #1 overall pick in Trevor Lawrence. Jacksonville has talent. I did the courtesy of giving Will a little look last week to give the Cowboys some kind of faith, which obviously they did not deserve. This is a bad loss for the Cowboys. And Dak has to bear whether that final low light is entirely on him or not, he has to bear it because he's the guy.
Well,
this is outstanding. This is great. Because who do I blame? I blame the Jacksonville Jaguars. They came to play football. You made great points. They are a well-coached team with an incredible head coach, Doug Peterson. Really good job. He did a great job of utilizing pretty much everyone who was available on offense. And that's what he did. So in this case, you have a coach where I think Doug simply outcoached McCarthy and the entire staff. You know, again, putting respect on the Jacksonville Jaguars, what they were able to do. And you mentioned, right, I have major concerns on the other side of Trevon Diggs. I mean, lately, the past couple of weeks, every time you look up on the highlights, you see a guy on that side trailing, and that is a massive concern. So overall, I mean, right, collectively, Dallas lost the game, but they got beat by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So who do I blame? Blame the Jaguars. Duval. Shout out to my team.
I love that thought process, but at the end of the day, Cowboys are America's team, so I'm talking about them.
That's fair.
Dak can't get outplayed by a second-year player. $160 million quarterback can't get outplayed by a dude who's in his, I don't know, maybe his 35th or so start. Can't happen. Dak Prescott cannot throw that pick in regulation that Joy's talking about. And furthermore, let's talk about the overtime one because people are trying to put that on Noah Brown. Understand your personnel. Dave Helman, prior to the season, was Noah Brown a blocking wide receiver or a pass-catching wide receiver?
He was a blocking wide receiver. Can I interject?
Go ahead.
Who needed to be moved up the depth chart because of the Cowboys' decision-making in the offseason.
Blocking wide receiver, meaning Noah Brown was more known at the wide receiver position for his ability to block.
He had 39 career catches coming into this season.
So,
what week are we in?
15.
15?
Yeah, what's your point?
I mean, coming into the season.
No, the point being, Dak got to know your personnel. I saw Michael Irvin tweet, the job of the quarterback isn't to throw a perfect pass, throw it where your receiver can catch it. Michael Irvin's in the Hall of Fame. Noah Brown is not Michael Irvin. So if Dak Prescott's throwing a jump man, Jordan logo looking pass near the dirt, I can't fault Noah Brown for dropping it. Noah Brown is a 6th-round pick who was more known for blocking than he was known for catching coming into the season.
He got drafted to catch footballs.
He absolutely did.
Noah Brown made a harder catch on the game-winning drive against the Texans. He made a harder, go back and watch. He extended, he did this whole thing, he pulled it in.
The thing is, though, there aren't asterisks by picks, and you know that, Dave. So if Dak throws a pick at the end of the day, especially if it's not an easy catch, and that was not an easy catch, I'm looking at Dak saying, hey, you got to do better. You got to do better.
Do better than lead the receiver away from his coverage and put it where he can get it at the sticks.
Do better than being in overtime with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's fair, and there are a million reasons. Look, honestly, if we want to be real, and I said it last week, you can get away with picks if you're playing excellently everywhere else. They still win that game. Micah Parsons does his Micah Parsons thing. Yep. He forces a fumble of Trevor Lawrence. They have, a minute 30 to kill?
Yeah, literally.
They burned 27 seconds off the clock. They ran the ball twice. And then I don't even hate the decision I don't even hate it because you win if you get a first down. But a go ball? A go ball.
I was going to say, I'm mad at that decision on 3rd and 4.
A go ball to Noah Brown, by the way. Very weird. I don't like the call. If it was a Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy decision, I hate that. If it was Dak deciding that was the best thing to do, I don't love that either. And then, you're not wrong in terms of the Cowboys personnel, but that's what I've been saying all year. This is what they have. CeeDee Lamb is getting clouded all over the place over here. They're not going to let CeeDee Lamb be the reason why they lose a game. And so then you're left with Michael Gallup, who hasn't looked like the same guy. He had 1 catch for 2 yards yesterday. He's still coming back from an ACL. That's not his fault. And then Noah Brown. They made T.Y. Hilton inactive yesterday. Wild to me. Wild. I know he just got there 5 days ago. It is wild to me that the Cowboys were like, this guy can't help us today.
Joy, you're laughing. Why?
It's just a lot of excuses for the Cowboys.
That's what I'm saying. They just got beat.
Team.
Is that an excuse or an explanation for what happened? I'm not trying to let anybody off the hook.
All losses can have explanations.
Of course.
But there's a difference between explanations and excuses. At this point in the season, if you're really a contending team, I don't want to hear any explanations. What's the question that we always have about the Dallas Cowboys? Situational football.
Sure.
It continues to be a problem. All the conversations about the Cowboys that we have are the same every single year. And this is why I refuse to drink the juice this year. Show me differently. Show me that you can beat the teams you're supposed to beat. All due respect to Jacksonville, who is a developing, rebuilding team.
Right.
Trending upwards. Point. But you're supposed to beat the Jags. You are supposed to beat them. We will talk about lots of teams that had moral victories later on in the show. I don't want moral victories at this point if you're a team we're supposed to be taking seriously.
For the record, I came on this show either last week or the week before that and said, show me. I did not believe that this was a different Cowboys team for reasons like this. A good friend of mine, I'll shout out Brian Broaddus, my guy, he loves to say the Cowboys are allergic to success. They can't maintain this type of stuff. This is the latest example. They're up 3 scores in the second half. You absolutely should win that game. And you can blame Dak. You can blame 18 other people.
Let me ask you this real quick before we head out.
Shouldn't have happened.
Dak is supposed to be a top 3 player on this team. maybe top 3 most important.
Sure.
So to me, to whom much is given, much is required. I can get mad at the Anthony Barr if I want to for not being more stout in the rushing attack. I can get mad at Kelvin Joseph, the second-year, second-round pick, if I want to, for getting beat on the outside by Zay Jones. I can get mad at all those people. But when I look at Dak, 250 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, then I look at Trevor, 320 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's where I'm putting my focus in. Noah Brown might make $800,000 this year, maybe. Dak Prescott's making closer to $30, $40 million this year. So I don't want to hear about Noah Brown catching it. I don't want to hear about Kelvin Joseph getting beat. I want to hear about Dak Prescott being outplayed by a second-year quarterback. That's what I want to hear about.
A second-year quarterback who was drafted #1 overall, who everybody said before the draft was like the closest thing to a slam dunk that we've seen in a decade.
Yes, and Doug Peterson. What's up?
It's kind of dismissive. And look, I mean, Dak lost.
He shouldn't be better than Dak Prescott.
Doug Peterson maximized all the guys on his roster.
Is Mike McCarthy not a Super Bowl coach as well? Sir, you played under Mike McCarthy.
Why?
But Doug Peterson is better on this half of the 2000s than McCarthy is. McCarthy, before 2011, sure, we can have that discussion. On this end, Doug Peterson.
I mean, why is it weird if Trevor Lawrence is better? Patrick Mahomes won MVP in his first year as a starter.
And Burrow's cooking.
I think
Burrow's cooking.
I don't know that it's about – I can go with you there. But if that's the case, Dak shouldn't be making mistakes.
I do not – the thing that's frustrating about where Dak is – and I'll go back and forth with you. We can do 90 minutes on this. This is not the player Dak Prescott has been. I got a million stats that can back it up. You don't want to hear them. But it is the player that he is right now. And I don't have a great answer. But again, they're not going to make any noise in the playoffs unless he can cut that out. I'll be willing to go that far.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.